Good evening. This is the 128th meeting of the 71st term of the Baltimore City Council is now called to order. Please turn off all cell phones or put them on vibrate. Tonight's invocation will be led by Pastor Damon Dorsey of the Walk by Faith Ministry. After the invocation, we will remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Every head bowed, every eye closed, let us pray. Almighty, all-wise, and all-powerful God, it's once again that we come thanking you for everything before asking you for anything. God, we thank you for this moment. We thank you for this session. We thank you for this occasion, and we thank you for this day, for this is the day that you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. God, we ask right now that you touch each heart and mind represented here, but we ask a special prayer over every council member, every leader of this great city of Baltimore, that you just continue to empower them with your wisdom and discernment, that they may make the best decisions. God, we know there is opposition, but we thank you that even when weapons are formed, that you've promised us that no weapon formed against us shall be able to prosper. God, we close this prayer again, just asking for your blessings over each and every one of us. Amen.
Amen. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I want to thank Pastor Dorsey for the invocation. The clerk will call the roll of the members.
President Young, Kraft, Scott, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Clark. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. This evening we welcome Robert Stupp of Baltimore Neighborhoods as our showcase.
Good evening, Council President Young and members of the City Council, and thank you for the upfront for the accommodation to be able to sit here rather than stand there. I'm having some serious back issues. My name is Robert Stupp, and I serve as Executive Director of Baltimore Neighborhoods Incorporated. BNI was established in 1959 as a nonprofit dedicated to housing justice and ending housing discrimination. One of our founders and a signer of our Articles of Incorporation was James Rouse, so I like to say BNI has very good DNA. Despite legislation and court rulings creating protections for some housing discrimination, as we know, continues, daily news headlines and current events make it clear that the work of our 57-year-old institution is far from complete. In fact, the founders of BNI thought that they would either be out of business in 5 years, that they would be out of business in 5 years, because either they would run out of money or their job would be done. That would have been, of course, 1964, which was the height of the civil rights movement in our country and our city. Gladly, I say, we are still in existence today. We didn't run out of money, although we have that problem from time to time, including in the present. And unfortunately, we did not run out of work to do. But economic inequality, prejudice, a critical shortage of affordable housing, the growing crisis of evictions and injustice in rent court are all issues taken on by BNI on any given day. BNI's trained and knowledgeable counselors respond to thousands of inquiries from tenants, corporate and mom-and-pop landlords, housing industry professionals, and public officials seeking guidance from our highly acclaimed telephone hotline and web-based housing counseling services. BNI works to create fair and affordable housing opportunities in all neighborhoods. BNI's fair housing staff work daily to combat continued discrimination in housing, both intentional and that due to ignorance or misunderstanding. BNI conducts fair housing workshops, produces educational materials, responds to complaints, conducts testing and mystery shopping, and otherwise enforces federal, state, and local laws prohibiting discrimination. These services are provided to landlords, property managers, real estate agents, lenders, elected and other government officials, and anyone else associated with housing. Examples of discrimination include race, color, national origin, sex, religion, familial status, disability, age, and gender identity. And it may come as a surprise to many that the number one reason for complaints under the Fair Housing Law is disability. BNI conducts housing testing in Baltimore City and reviews the results for possible signs of discrimination. This year, BNI provided fair housing training to employees of the Housing Authority for Baltimore City. I contacted them after the incidents earlier this year and they brought us in to train all employees. In fiscal year 2016, BNI's trained counselors assisted over 5,000 individuals, tenants, and landlords. Leading reasons for the inquiries included questions about security deposits, notices to vacate, failure to pay rent, and breach of lease. BNI also reached over 1,000 individuals in education and outreach activities this year. We also assisted over 24 individuals with their specific complaints of housing discrimination. We are truly grateful for the funding and support we receive. Those inquiries to BNI's hotline are responded to by only 3 counselors and 3 fair housing specialists. BNI services are only partially funded by our grants and donations, and as you can imagine, these resources do not fully cover BNI's annual expenses, nor can BNI meet the needs of all who seek our services. More staff and more resources are desperately needed. I thank you for your support for our organization and allowing us the opportunity to serve the citizens of Baltimore. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that you do. It is the council custom to generalize the Invocation Act for motion to generalize the prayer. Motion by Councilman Mosby, second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of generalize the prayer say aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. We'll now move with the adoption of the journal.
Mr. President, the Journal of Proceedings from the October 20th special meeting and October 24th City Council meeting are on the council members' desks.
Is there a motion to approve the journal? Motion by Councilman Henry, second by Councilman Costello. All those in favor of adopting the journal say aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carried, the journal is adopted. Bill signed by the mayor can be found on pages 2 to 9 of the agenda. There's no bills to be introduced. Resolution to be introduced.
City Council Resolution 16-0319R, Protecting Baltimore City Retirees. Resolution for the purpose of requesting that the city reexamine current plans for retiree health care benefits and evaluate how those plans can be improved to safeguard the well-being of both the city and its essential workers. Sponsor Welsh, President Young, Kraft, Middleton, Scott, Stokes, Clark, Spector, Reisinger.
Please note Councilwoman Holton is co-sponsor. Councilman Costello co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilman Welch.
Mr. President, throughout our history, societies have been judged how they treat those less benefited of our society. And we're no different as a city or as a city council. Our retirees have worked long and hard for the city of Baltimore, and when they retire, they're at their most excuse me, vulnerable financial point in their life. That is no time for them to be put in a position where they have to make choices with prescriptions versus food versus rent. We had a wonderful prescription plan in place for these employees. That is something they look forward to in their retirement, and I would like to put that back. I would like to move for immediate relaxation of the rules, suspension of the rules.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of suspending the rules for immediate adoption of this resolution say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion carried, the rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilman Welch.
I move the bill.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor of adopting resolution 16, I got to call the bill out. 16-0319R say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This resolution is adopted. Oh, co-sponsor. Please note. I'm sorry. Please note Councilman Kern and Councilman Henry as co-sponsor and Councilman Mosby as co-sponsors. This resolution is adopted.
City Council Resolution 16-0320R, Shop Small, Spend Big on Small's Business Saturday, November 26, 2016. Resolution for the purpose of celebrating the 7th Annual Small Business Saturday in Baltimore City, honoring all small businesses for their many contributions to the economy and the quality of life in this country, and encouraging Baltimore City residents to shop small, spend big at our city's main streets, downtown shops, and the many varied and exciting neighborhood retail establishments on Small Business Saturday. Sponsor President Young, Henry, Middleton, Scott, Kraft, Stokes, Spector, Reisinger, Clark.
Okay. Chair recognizes Council Vice President Reisinger. Okay, Kern and Mosby. Okay, thank you. I got them. I got all y'all. Okay. I'm watching as well as praying. Chair recognizes Council Vice President Reisinger.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules for immediate adoption.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries. Chair
move
recognizes-
to
I'm
raise.
sorry.
Yeah.
I am just not with it today. Chair, some news came to me that just, I'll talk about that when we get to
Okay.
the part of the hearing, the part of the agenda. Chair recognizes Vice President Reisinger.
Mr. President, I move the resolution favorable.
All those in favor of adopting Resolution 16-032R, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This resolution is adopted. You can find this consent calendar in Section A at the back of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? All those in favor of approving this consent calendar, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This calendar is approved. Second reader, Committee of the Whole.
City Council Bill 16-0703, City Solicitor and Director of Public Works salaries for the purpose of setting the annual salaries for the City Solicitor and Director of Public Works and providing for a special effective date.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman. Before I recognize the Councilwoman, Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Move short titles for the remainder of the meeting.
Second by Councilman Kern. All those in favor of short titles for the remaining of the meeting, say aye. All opposed, nay. The motion carried. Short reading for the remainder of the hearing. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Holton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was a bill to look at the salaries to two of the important functions of city government and to put them in better alignment to be able to attract the quality individual or maintain them to do the job that is required to help move Baltimore forward. We had a very good hearing, and so, Mr. President, at this time, I recommend a favorable report on the hearing.
Second by Councilman Kern. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye. Those opposed, nay. This bill moves to third reader. I didn't hear you. What you say? Please note, Councilman Scott is a no. All right. Judiciary and Legislative Investigation Committee.
City Council Bill 15-0568, Public Ethics Law Administrative Modifications.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we had a voting session on this bill on, I believe, November the 1st. Committee moves this bill favorably.
Second by Council Vice President Reisinger. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. This motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 16-0652, Baltimore City Municipal Identification Cards.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Mr. President, we had a voting session on this bill on November 1st. Before I move the amendments, I'd like to defer to the sponsor, the councilman from the 2nd District.
Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank Councilman Kraft for his due diligence in the committee with this bill. It's going to be very important to the city of Baltimore, creating a new city-based ID program that will open up many opportunities for many people in our city, from our young people to our homeless population and our immigrant and refugee population. So thank you, and thank you all for your support.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, there are amendments to this bill on the member's desk. I would move the amendments at
Second
this
by
time.
Councilman Scott. All those in favor of approving the amendment, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Move the bill favorably as amended.
All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 16-0728, Discounted City Services and Equipment for Nonprofit Events.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this bill was heard on October 25th. There are amendments on the member's desk. I would move the amendments at this time.
Second by Council Vice President Reisinger. All those in favor of approving the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Vice President Reisinger. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 16-0758, Health Hydraulic Fracturing Ban.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we had a public hearing on this bill on November the 1st. Move this bill favorably.
Second by Councilman Kern. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 16-0761, Police Ordinances Replica Gun Ban.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we had a hearing on this bill on, I believe, October the 25th. There are amendments on the member's desk. I move the amendments at this time.
Second by Councilwoman Clark. All those in favor of approving the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilwoman Clark. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 16-0763, Retail Business Districts, Semi-Annual Fee Collection.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, before I move the amendments, I'd like to defer to the sponsor, Councilman from the 4th District.
Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill will facilitate the conversion of the York Road RBDL from a retail business district license area to a business improvement district. I want to thank the chair of the committee and the committee members for moving it expeditiously through the process so that it will get done in time for the bills that go out January 1. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, move the amendments on the member's desk.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of approving these amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 16-0765, Disclosure of Industrial and Railroad Operations, Standalone Disclosure Required.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, after we passed this bill favorably out of committee, we were notified by the Office of Legislative Reference that they needed to make some amendments to the bill. We do not have sufficient time to make those amendments and correct the bill before the end of this term. For that reason, we would move to send the bill back to the Judiciary and Legislative Investigations Committee.
Second by Councilwoman Holton. All those in favor of sending this bill back to committee, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion approved. This bill is returned to the Judiciary and Legislative Investigation Committee.
City Council Resolution 15-0241R, Request for State Action, Ban Hydraulic Fracturing in Maryland.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Mr. President, we heard this bill on November 1st, 2016. Move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of approving this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this resolution is adopted.
City Council Resolution 16-0301R, Investigative Hearing, Expediting Stormwater Management Projects and Activities.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Mr. President, before I make the motion on this, I'd like to defer to the councilman from the 11th District, Councilman Costello.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met. We discussed a structure of an advisory council to deal with this matter. It is my intention to introduce a new resolution at the first hearing of the new council to establish that structure, and I want to thank Councilman Kraft for his years of leadership on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. President, move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilman Costello. All those in favor of adopting this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This resolution is adopted.
City Council Resolution 16-0302R, Informational Hearing, Stormwater Enterprise Fund Usage.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the resolution favorably.
Second by Councilman Costello. All those in favor of adopting this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion approved. This resolution is adopted.
City Council Resolution 16-0303R, Request for Federal Action, Federal Railroad Administration Crew Size Rule.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Mr. President, move the resolution favorably.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of moving this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Most approved. This resolution is adopted.
Thank
Land
you,
Use
Mr.
and Transportation Committee.
City Council Bill 16-0687, Valet Parking, Offenses by Operators and Hosts.
Chair recognizes Council Vice President Reisinger.
Mr. President, there's no amendments. I move the bill favorable.
Second by Councilman Costello. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 16-0759, Zoning Conditional Use, Secondhand Store, 4418 Edmondson Avenue.
Chair recognizes Vice President Reisinger.
Mr. President, I move the finding of facts.
Second by Councilwoman Holton. All those in favor of approving the finding of facts, say aye. All opposed, nay. The finding of facts are adopted. Chair recognizes Vice President Reisinger.
Mr. President, this bill has amendments. I move the amendments.
Second by Councilwoman Holton. All those in favor of approving these amendments, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion approved. This bill is amended. Chair recognizes Vice President Reisinger.
Mr. President, I move the bill favorable as amended.
Second by Councilwoman Holton. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader. Urban Affairs and Aging Committee.
City Council Bill 15-0509, Baltimore City Landmark List, Eastern Avenue Pumping Station.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met on October 27, 2016 to hear 3 bills. All 3 are being reported favorable with technical amendments. I move the amendments favorable.
Second by Councilman Kraft. All those in favor of approving these amendments say aye. All those in favor of approving these amendments say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
I move the bill favorable as amended.
Second by Councilman Kraft. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 15-0510, Baltimore City Landmark List, John Brewer Elementary Middle School.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are technical amendments on your desk. I move the amendments favorable.
Second by Councilman Kraft. All those in favor of approving these amendments say aye. Those opposed, nay. This bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
I move bill favorable as amended.
Second by Councilman Kraft. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 15-0511, Baltimore City Landmark List, Patterson Park.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are technical amendments on your desk. I move the amendments favorable.
Second by Councilman Kraft. All those in favor of approving these amendments say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
I move the bill favorable as amended.
Second by Councilman Kraft. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 16-0713, Baltimore City Landmark List, exterior is Greater Faith Baptist Church.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee heard this bill on November 10th, 2016, in what will probably be its last meeting of this term. There are no amendments to move the bill favorable.
Second by Councilman Stokes. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader. Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 10-13, I present a petition co-signed by 8 of my colleagues to direct the Judiciary and Legislative Investigation Committee to immediately return Council Bill 160762, Commemorative Days, Indigenous Peoples Day, together with all related documents in the committee's control or possession to the floor of the City Council immediately.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft. You know you got to read it.
Mr. President,
Don't wait for me.
committee heard this bill on November the 1st. This bill was, at the end of the hearing, there was a motion to report the bill out of committee as amended. That motion failed for a lack of a second at the hearing. Mr. President, I'd like to take a minute and speak against this bill at this time. And let me explain why. I am not opposed, and I don't think the committee was opposed to the concept of the bill. But this bill was introduced on October the 20th of this year. And that's less than a month ago from today. This bill is a major piece of legislation. It doesn't sound like a major piece of legislation, but it is a major piece of legislation. For one reason, there is no one, I think, that will argue with us about the importance of recognizing indigenous peoples. What this does do is do away with the Columbus Day holiday. Now, there is an amendment to say that we would honor indigenous people and Italian Americans on the same day. But in the short time that we had, we got a lot of feedback from the Italian American community, the organized Italian American groups, stating that they had strong objections to this. Mr. President, as I said, I don't think the committee has an objection to an Indigenous Peoples Day, but I don't know why we have to do this in 3 weeks, from October the 20th to November the 14th. As I said, this is a major piece of legislation, and I would hope that the council would not rush through this piece of legislation, but would take it to the next term. I understand the zealousness of the sponsor, and I respect his zealousness in moving this forward. But I truly do believe that the objective can ultimately be accomplished, but there should be sufficient time to allow everyone's voices to be heard before such a serious and dramatic change is made. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. The petition has been received and the bill is now considered on second reader. Clerk will read the bill into the record.
City Council Bill 16-0762, Commemorative Days, Indigenous Peoples Day.
Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is an amendment.
Excuse me. Did you have something, Councilman Stokes? Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
One quick thing.
I
My
didn't see
colleague
your
said
hand.
it's taken us about 3 weeks. I actually think it's taken us about 600 years to recognize.
Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, there are floor amendments on members' desks. The amendment is aforementioned by Councilman Kraft, would simply change it from strictly Indigenous Peoples Day to an Indigenous and Italian Americans Day as a hope of compromise. Unfortunately, the members of the community that I spoke with are still in opposition of anything that does not include Christopher Columbus, and pretty much this is about all the compromise that we're going to get on this issue. So I move the amendment.
Second by Councilman Henry. The amendment is on your desk.
It's on your desk.
It should be on your desk. Before we vote on the amendment, I met with Councilman Scott about this, and to recognize, remove Columbus and recognize the Italian Americans, I think was a great compromise. It's not taken away from what the Italian Americans have contributed to this country. So to have it as Italian American Day along with indigenous peoples, I think is a great compromise. And I want to thank the councilman for reaching out to have this compromise, because I think it's important that we recognize the contributions that's been made by some of the Italian citizens in the city of Baltimore. So I support this amendment. Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
He seconded the amendment.
Oh, second. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Please note that Councilwoman Clark abstained. Councilman Costello is a no. Chair recognizes.
We're on the amendments,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Just
Yes, yes. And you? Okay. Well, the amendment, the amendment passes. Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Mr. President, I move the bill.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed, nay. Please note that Councilman Kraft is a no, Councilman Costello is a no, Councilman Clark abstained. This bill moves to third reader. Third reader to be held one meeting.
City Council Bill 12-0152, transfer from Baltimore zoning.
Okay. Third reader for final passage.
City Council Bill 14-0353, sale of property, 1511 Ashburton Street. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Senior, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 15-0575, rezoning 1520 through 1530 Beeson Street, 1600 Beeson Street, and 1220 Towson Street. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Senior, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0688, 320 South Highland Avenue. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Senior, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0689, rezoning 300 North Warwick Avenue. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Senior, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0695, Plant New Development, Amendment 1, New Shallow Baptist Church. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Senior, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0696, Plant New Development, Amendment 1, Kennedy Krieger Institute. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Senior, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0707, rezoning 1410 North Monroe Street. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Senior, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0709, Plant Unit Development Amendment, Port Covington. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0714, rezoning 5501 Pulaski Highway. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0715, rezoning 5501 Bel Air Road. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0732, rezoning 325 West Baltimore Street. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0734, rezoning certain properties in the Remington Central Business Area. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0740, Employees Retirement System and elected officials retirement system clarifications and modifications. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0750, Plant New Development Amendment, Mount Washington Mill. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0751, rezoning 300 South Patterson Park Avenue. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0752, rezoning 900 Fleet Street. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 16-0757, Plant New Development Designation, Northwood Commons. President Young, Kraft, Scott, Kern, Henry, Specter, Middleton, Mosby, Holton, Walsh, Rice, Costello, Stokes, Clark.
This bill is approved. Committee announcements. Chair recognizes Councilman Kern.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. The Health Committee was supposed to have scheduled a hearing for 16-0316R, is investigative hearing for street harassment on November 7th. We were going to announce a new date tonight for November 30th, but I'm announcing the Health Committee and working with the advocates that we're going to deal with this. The folks that are remaining are going to deal with this next term, so the hearing that would be scheduled tonight is canceled. So 16-0316R will not have a hearing.
Thank you. Committee announcements. Okay, regular announcements. First of all, I'd like to welcome our new pages for 2015 to 2016. Louis Laundrie and Craig Minor are seniors at Mervo. Can you stand? And I would like to wish a happy birthday to Councilman Costello. His birthday is next Wednesday, November the 23rd. Okay, I told y'all earlier, I was stumbling a little bit because I was trying to figure out how I would preface my remarks. I was asked to come into a meeting by Annie Smullian and the Director of Finance to tell me that the mayor has been unscrupulous in her dealings with the parking garages. She went around the taxation committee, and I did offer, I wanted the record to relate to this, I did offer a resolution on the parking garages, but not the sale of the garages. So her remarks to the Sun paper that we wouldn't give her a hearing is totally false. I was in her office talking to her and gave her the alternative that we would have that hearing. The mayor had the law department to go and find some loophole, which they evidently found. The committee that they found was the off-street parking, I think it was, committee that she haven't met since I was there in 2007. And her intent is to call on her agency heads. The committee's supposed to be 11 people, and I have an appointment. So she's calling on all of her department heads to vote on this, to give so that they can convene and vote to sell the city garages. Now, I'm not opposed to us looking at that with the new mayor. I mean, this is the last couple of weeks of her administration, and I don't think she should be tying the hands of the new mayor with trying to sell a city asset that's really, really generating revenue for the city. Now, I had a proposal. I told them we have a money loser in the Hilton Hotel. Let's talk about selling that, because it's not giving the city no revenue, it's taking revenue. So the Taxation and Finance Committee is charged with, the mayor and city council are the owners of all city assets. And the process is it has to go through the Taxation and Finance Committee. Only the mayor and city council can sell city assets. And this mayor, in my opinion, have been backdoor dealing, because I don't know who she want to sell the garages to. I really don't know. But to circumvent this body, which is the City Council of Baltimore, that's charged with holding a hearing on any sales in the city of Baltimore, is ludicrous. And in her last few days, she wants to circumvent this council to sell the garages. And I find it to be unscrupulous on her part. Instead of her focusing on the DOJ investigation and getting that done, or focusing on the body cameras that she claimed we would have in place by June, that's not even in place, and there's some glitches with that, and worrying about the rising murder rate in this city and the vacant houses that we have that stretch for miles and miles and miles. She want to focus on selling garages, and I find it unacceptable. So those are my remarks. Regular announcements. Anybody else? Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a public service announcement on behalf of the Executive Board of the Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee. The Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee is presently accepting resumes to fill the position of Senator for the 40th Legislative District, pending the resignation of Senator Catherine E. Pugh from the Maryland State Senate effective Monday, December 5th, 2016. To apply, one must be a registered Democratic voter in the state of Maryland, must have resided in the 40th Legislative District for at least 1 year, and be 25 years of age or older. Resumes for consideration must be posted no later than Tuesday, November 29th, 2016. All resumes must be sent to Mrs. Betty Clark, 40th District Chair, Baltimore City Democratic State Central Committee, P.O. Box 23762, Baltimore, Maryland 21203-5762. Interviews will be held on Wednesday, December 7th, 2016 at the Zeta Center for Healthy and Active Aging, located at 4501 Reisterstown Road, Baltimore, Maryland 21215, beginning at 6 p.m. Applicants must be notified of their specific interview times. The 7 voting members of the 40th Democratic State Central Committee will vote publicly after all interviews have conducted to fill the vacancy. If you have any questions, please contact Betty Clark at 443-845-3790. Again, that's 443-845-3790, or email bettyclark3604@yahoo.com. Again, bettyclark3604@yahoo.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Kern. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Scott. Thank you, Councilman Kern. Go ahead, Councilman Kern.
Thank you, Mr. President, my colleagues. I stand to rise to comment on what's happening since last Tuesday when we had our presidential election. And I thought I'd just give a personal experience to my colleagues. Around 9:30 Tuesday night, election night, I was, as I do, flip through all the cable news channels, Fox, CNBC, and CNN, and Democracy Now! And all of them. I always flip through them all for the last 2 or 3 months. My wife hated me for doing that, but I did that ad nauseum. But about 9:30 on election night, I started surfing because I realized that what was going to happen wasn't going to be pleasant for me to hear. I got on the one of the cable networks that had the Twilight Zone marathon. And I stayed on the Twilight Zone marathon, and I'm still in the Twilight Zone political marathon, because not that I don't accept what happened with the voters around this country, what they did last week with the election of the Republican nominee.
You got more for me?
But I was tired of hearing the venom spewed by the alt-right cable news channel, and then I realized I was only hearing on the other cable news channel some cautiously optimistic views that the Democratic nominee would be successful. But since that night, I have not watched cable news, and I will not watch cable news on any of the cable news channels until I'm out of this political twilight zone, because I believe that the country is headed to that twilight zone for the next 4 years. So if I'm still around 4 years from now, somebody wake me up and bring me out of the twilight zone for the next election, because I'm going to stay in this political twilight zone for the next 4 years.
Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just say first that I was very gracious to yield my time to Councilman Kern, because age becomes before beauty. But more importantly, on a light note, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that the Baltimore City champion football team, the Mergenthaler Mustangs, that was a call from the third place section. Continue their run. They won last Friday in the 4A regional playoffs and will continue to play this week. On a somber note, Mr. President, I rise to say that since we last met in October, there have been 13 homicides in the city of Baltimore, placing us at 271 for the year, outlining for all of us the work that needs to be done in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I know we'll have an opportunity at our next meeting to make certain remarks, but I would like to say this, as this is our last meeting that we will have before Thanksgiving, and this is the last opportunity that I will have as a councilman to say Happy Thanksgiving to my constituents. And I want to just thank them for having had the opportunity to serve them for the last 12 years, and wish the best to them, for them and their families as we enter into this coming season. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Mr. President, I ask for a moment of silence for Lydia Armstead. She was the owner of Tiny Tailors for nearly 40 years on West Reed Street corridor in Mount Vernon.
Okay, and before I recognize Councilwoman Holton, we want to do a moment of silence for Gwen Ifill. Gwen Ifill. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Holton, then Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to rise to remind everyone that on this Thursday, November 17th, is the Great American Smokeout Day. Smoking for years has been proven to be such a known contributor to heart disease, as well as lung cancer and other forms of cancer. This body was the body that led the state of Maryland to being smoke-free. And it is clear that as the profits of smoking continue to increase from about $3 billion in 10 years ago, now it's over $5 trillion in revenue just from tobacco-related products. And so the health disparities of this city are significantly impacted by smoking. So I just want to put a shout out to anyone who's smoking, including e-cigarettes that really aren't that much better, to consider one day not smoking. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step, and taking a step in the right direction to live and to support our families, our communities, and this great city by bypassing smoking would be a great contribution to the overall health of our city and America. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Thank you, Mr. President, for acknowledging the passing of Gwen Ifill. I just wanted to say a couple words about a woman who really began here in Baltimore, at least as far as I know, her career. She was a reporter for City Hall, and a wonderful one at that, so much so that when she announced that she was leaving Baltimore to pursue her academic higher degrees, to give herself, you know, more width and depth in her career, I called her up and said, "You can't do this, it's ridiculous." Of course, it wasn't ridiculous, and she didn't pay any attention to me or to anyone else who was grieving her leaving us, and she went out to become nationally, perhaps even internationally known for her wisdom, her intelligence, and her positive influence on the world. We will miss her across this nation, but especially here in Baltimore, where I guess we helped to give her such a hard time as a reporter that she was able to endure even harder times as she rose to such prominence. She was a wonderful woman, a wonderful lady, and I am so sad at her sudden and unexpected passing. She will be greatly and for a long time missed.
Chair recognizes Councilman Mosby.
Mr. President and colleagues, just want to make sure that we recognize the Baltimoreans and hard workers that lost their lives last Tuesday in the fatal bus crash. The school bus driver was 67-year-old Glenn Chappell. The MTA bus driver was 33-year-old Ebony Baker. Cherry Yarnbarrow was 51-year-old Secretary of the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Gerald Holloway, a 51-year-old 8th District resident. Gerald Holloway, 51-year-old maintenance worker at Forest Haven Nursing and Rehabilitation. And Terrence Casey, 52-year-old former volunteer minister, husband, and father. Again, they lost their lives tragically to an accident last Tuesday, and I just want to make sure that we formally recognize them on the record.
Thank you. Any more announcements? Chair recognizes Vice President Reisinger.
Mr. President, I ask a moment of silence for Gwen Eifeld and Lydia Armstrong. And the next meeting of the City Council will be held on Monday, December 5th at 5 p.m. in the Council Chamber.
Thank you. There being no further business, this concludes the 128th meeting of the 71st term of the Baltimore City Council. Good night.